Welcome everyone, all of you on this webinar on a very interesting topic, which is the role of urban university and school living labs in promoting circularity. Today we will be talking about this topic with three very interesting guests and speakers. I will introduce them to you a little bit later. My name is Zuzana Špuntova. I will be your facilitator and moderator today for this webinar. And I come from the company called Circle, which is the biggest marketplace for waste in Europe. We work in the circular economy and waste management, and we are also the leader of the consulting in those areas. So I kind of have a background, and also I will be here for your questions and kind of navigating you through the webinar. Today, as I mentioned before, we have three brilliant experts today with me. The first one will be Karolina Inela from the INEA. Then we will have Vakaz Mazhar from Budapest University of Technology and Economics. And the third speaker will be Professor Alessandra Bognoli from University of Bologna. So this will be very interesting. But first, let me introduce you to the technical information for this webinar, because this is very important. Your cameras and microphones are automatically turned off. Maybe you will be able to turn them on definitely during the Q&A section after each presentation, or after all of these three presentations by the end of the webinar. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them also during the presentations, but preferably use Q&A section down here in the Zoom. Also, we have a Slido, which you can find in the chat of this Zoom meeting. If you open the chat, you can see the link and you can ask your questions in there. Also, let me mention, please, that for the GDPR, this seminar or webinar is recorded, and the record will be shared on YouTube channel of the Project NiCE. So you will be able to come back to the record. And one more important thing, if you have some issues with the sound, you can use also the captions. You can look down there on the Zoom and you can see the icon called CC to turn the subtitles on. So if you need it, please, you can turn it on. And one more thing, we will be using also some polls. During those presentations, some questions will jump on your screen. You can click your answers. I think that most of the time we will have multiple choices, so you can choose more than one question or answer. And then we will be sharing those results. So do not be afraid. Please be interactive. It is very, very important. So one more important thing about this webinar, of course, this is supported from the European Union, from the Interact project called NiCE, from niche to center, which is focused on two main challenges. The first one is transformation of central places in cities, and the second one is to reanimate centers to more circular way, so it will be easier to live in those cities. This project NiCE runs in 8 countries of European Union, and it will last up to the end of April 2026. So we are somewhere in the middle right now. And the part of this project is also this interactive webinar-like site. We have multiple webinars in this project, and right now we are on the second one. So plenty more for you to come. Yeah, okay, please, if you're able, turn off your microphones. Okay, thank you a lot. So today, as I mentioned before, we are privileged to have those three brilliant speakers with us. Each of whom will bring a wealth of experience to you in this field of living labs. So for now, let me start with the first speaker, Karolina Inela from INEA. She will introduce to us the methodology behind the urban and school living labs, with focus on stakeholder engagement and co-design in the circular economy. So Karolina, the floor is yours. Please, if you are able, start to share your screen. We can check if the microphone is working and everything, and then space is yours. Perfect. We can see the screen. Just try the presentation. Okay, it's perfect.
Thank you. Thank you, Susanna. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this online seminar on the role of urban university and school living labs in promoting circularity. So let me briefly introduce what ENEA is. It is the Italian National Agency for New Technologies, Energy and Sustainable Economic Development. It is a public research body hosting 2,300 researchers, technologists, and administrative staff, with 13 research centers, 17 local bureau, and headquarters in Rome. So today, in particular, my speech will focus on a circular economy transition and the importance of the stakeholder engagement, the definition of living lab and urban living lab, the key elements or framework of the living lab and urban living lab, and our experience of urban living lab and the need for a methodology framework. So the implementation of some urban living labs for circular consumption co-design and some conclusions. Then we move to schools as driver for the circular consumption and experimenting some school living labs. So the legislative background, we know that the European Green Deal placed the concept of the circular economy at the heart to transform the European Union into a fair and prosperous society. The new Circular Economy Action Plan promoted circular economy process for achieving Europe's climate neutrality target by 2050, and the European Commission report. The European Commission report on the implementation of the circular economy action puts the stakeholder engagement as a key point for the circular transition. We know that urban areas are the main field of experimentation for tackling economic and environmental challenges. The operational tool that can help to achieve stakeholders' participation is, of course, the Urban Living Lab. And since 2006, the European Commission has promoted a common European innovation system based on living labs and established the European network of living labs. The urban living labs can be considered as the urban projection of the living labs. There are so many definitions of living lab, but summarizing, we can say that living lab is, first of all, a methodology or a systemic innovation approach to the development of pathways for new service. It involves heterogeneous stakeholders, and within the living labs, the heterogeneous stakeholders jointly explore, design, and validate innovative solutions and business models. Living lab and both living lab and urban living lab are characterized by three main steps: exploration and design, experimentation, and evaluation. But although the distinction between the terms of living lab and urban living lab is not well defined in the literature, we can say that urban living lab can be considered as the urban projection of living labs. The key difference lies in the UL's need for a physical location in the investigated area and in a focus on the urban sustainability. So, to the best of our knowledge, there is not a reference methodology in the literature for implementing ULS focused on co-design of circular action activities based on the needs of the involved urban community. For this reason, to fill this gap, our research team implemented an ad hoc methodological framework for both stakeholder engagement and co-design of circular economy activities at the urban level within three research projects: Reciproco, Biocircular Cities, and Basilicata Heritage Smart Lab. The framework of this methodology is organized into four main phases. Each of these four phases is in turn divided into three main steps. The four phases are scouting and analysis of the territorial context, listening and exploration phase, participation, and then execution phase. So, scouting phase and analysis of the territorial context is above all a study of the territorial area based both on bibliographic and website source in order to have a comprehensive picture of the geographic, economic, and social aspects, and also a mapping of the potential target stakeholders. The mapped stakeholders are classified according to the pentahelix multi-stakeholder framework that are schools and university, public authorities, business, civil society organizations, and social innovators. Listening and exploration phase, in which the target stakeholders are invited to participate in the launch event. During it, an ad hoc survey is also presented, and target stakeholders are invited then to fill it during the event itself or at a later stage online to get their point of view about the needs of their territory, so that this step is very important to define the topics of the UL to be implemented. Based on the survey results, a detailed program of the UL can be prepared. Participation phase involves 2 meetings focused on capacity building and cross-fertilization of the participants, and then the execution phase, in which within 2 meetings, the participants co-design the final proposal project. So the final output of the UL is a document describing the project proposal or proposals co-designed by the participants. We can now go to the poll. Let's imagine you are a participant in a UL of your city. What kind of circular economy activity or activities would you like to co-design? So these are the questions to the audience.
Thank you, Carolina, for the questions. Just for you participants, you can see the poll now on your screen. So just please click on the options which you would like to choose. You can choose multiple of them, and then do not forget to submit by this blue icon, or it can be also gray if I remember right, down there. Thank you. Two more seconds for you to join the poll again. It's really up to you. You can choose whatever you wish and you think that is the right answer for this. Okay, do we have almost everyone included or not yet? I think that we can share the answers and results. Okay, perfect. Thank you. We can see the results. So Carolina, this is the situation in our audience. So how can you interpret and illustrate on these results? What do you think?
Okay. It is these results are similar to what we had in our urban living labs. So now we can okay, my
Yes,
oops.
so you can close this poll by the bottom close blue one on the below. So all of the participants, also us speakers, we can close this poll by this tab. Okay, and it's your turn, Carolina. You can continue with the presentation. I think that somewhere down below you should have an arrows, or if it is not working, you can use arrows on your typer.
But my presentation doesn't go
Okay, so
on.
maybe stop sharing the screen and start again. We can
Okay.
reset it.
Okay. Okay, sorry.
It's totally okay. Okay, we can see the screen again. So now please try to move if it is working or not.
No, it doesn't move. Why? I don't know. What is the problem?
Maybe I can try to share it for you if we will have more issues.
No.
Not moving? Okay, no worries. I can share it for you.
Maybe now.
Now we are not able to see your screen.
Okay, perfect. Sorry. So let's have a look what our participants, what were the results of our urban living labs in 5 Italian countries with different geographical, social, and economics characteristics, and with a different number of inhabitants. The cities in which we implemented our methodology were Anguillara Sabazia in the metropolitan area of Rome, Bologna, Taranto, Venosa in southern Italy, in Basilicata region, and Naples. So the topics that our participants have chosen were sustainable tourism and repair and reuse center in Anguillara Sabazia. The topic focused on water management in Bologna, circular water management, and awareness raising on water management. In Taranto, community garden, food waste reduction, repair and reuse center. In Venosa, the regeneration of a public building and transformation in a circular hub. And then in Naples, the topic was circular waste, bio-waste management. So some conclusions of our urban living labs, what we can say. First of all, the whole methodological framework tested in different urban areas with different characteristics demonstrates its great flexibility and adaptability to any urban context. Urban living labs are very attractive for participants, and we had the presence of a great number of non-associated citizens. And even in case in which they had a role as members of academia, local administration, or private sector, they adopted the connotation or role of citizen in participating in the whole. Adults and women were the highest number of participants in our urban living lab, and the HULS led to an increase in individual and collective awareness. But the main difficulty is to implement the co-designed project proposals in any pilot case. For this reason, we believe that the role of the research is very important because its capability to access project funding, but above all, it is important to have the endorsement of the municipality. So let's move now to School Living Lab. First of all, we know that education plays a crucial role in promoting the sustainable development. Educational or serious games are effective tools for awareness raising and for promoting the behavioral change. Serious games are games in which education is the primary objective. We have implemented a research activity in secondary schools based on three methodological tools: the urban living lab, the tinkering, and the nudge, to implement a game aimed at promoting and encouraging a more sustainable and circular behavior. Where and when? We implemented our school living lab in many schools, but above all, we have implemented our methodology in this school, in this secondary school, Pitagora in Policoro. It is a city in southern Italy, in Basilicata region. During 3 school years, and the output of the school living lab was a game to promote the correct separation of plastic materials and to understand the importance of closing the loop. This is the framework of our methodology, the 3 steps of an urban living lab: exploration, co-design, experimentation, and evaluation. Each one of these phases is divided into other steps, and we used the nudge theory approach for the co-design and the implementation steps, and the tinkering theory approach for experimentation and evaluation phase. So these are some reference for in-depth informations for both Urban Living Lab and School Living Lab. That's all. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you so much, Carolina, for providing us such a comprehensive overview of the urban living labs in the school surrounding and how they are playing the crucial role in promoting the circular consumption, and also how to engage the stakeholders. So thank you for this. I think that if you have some questions, again, please feel free to share them via Slido, or if you are not willing to be anonymous, but if you are willing to share your name, please, you can also share them via chat, or you can say them now aloud if you wish. If not, if you need more time to think about those questions, we can move to our other speaker, which is Vakas from the Budapest University. So Vakas, please, now the floor is yours. And maybe one more thing, we have the question about the Slido in the chat. You can use the link which is in the chat above. It is the first message of this chat, and you can see the link, you can open it, and then the Slido will be open for you. You can share your question via this link. So Vakas, please share your screen. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I hope so everybody can see the slides.
Yes, we can see the presentation and also the presentation mode, so it's fine. You can go.
Thank you so much. Okay. Hi everyone. So welcome on board. I'm going to present one of the topic of our seminar, which is about the landscape of University Living Lab. My name is Vakas Mazar. I'm research associate at Budapest University of Technology and Economics, Hungary. The topics I'm going to cover, the first one is exploring the fundamental characteristics. I believe this particular topic is the extension of Carolina's presentation. She have highlighted some of the characteristics which should be there about, about the living lab or urban living lab. The second topic I'm going to cover is evaluating key characteristics and approaches of University Living Lab, where I have selected 5 of the samples from the globe, and I have analyzed data of 5 urban living labs, which is basically operated by universities. Then I talk about complex challenges and what should be done. And lastly, I will introduce another comprehensive framework and methodologies for evaluating the effectiveness and performance of Living Lab. So let's begin with the first topic, which is about the characteristics. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to explain briefly about each of the characteristics which should exist in any Living Lab, and then I will elaborate it with example of University Living Lab, which is situated in Finland, Lahti Living Lab, and they have conducted the Bukashi Living Lab experiments. So the context here means any living lab should focus on a particular real life environment. And it can be you are maybe we analyzing how to use e-bike in city setting. For example, in case of Lahuti Living Lab, which project focus on household food waste at home and how to manage food waste in their day-to-day settings. So this day-to-day setting at house is a context. Second one is which's been highlighted a lot by Carolina, that the stakeholders are really very important. Let me tell you one thing. The context and the stakeholders are two important characteristics which makes living labs different from traditional or conventional living lab. A stakeholder here means how heterogeneous people are involved, which we call it 4Ps, which is like public, private, people partnership. At this point, we have to involve as much heterogeneous stakeholder as possible to gather diverse viewpoint. Third one, the characteristic of living lab is activities performed by these labs. So usually these are kind like co-creation, testing, validation, engagement, networking. So in case of Bukashi, the household played central role, and these activities involve like for example, how to use composting tool were provided to household, and they were testing and experimenting with household behavior, how to change and influence them. Fourth one is methods, tool, and approaches, and it include the ways of data collection, how you evaluate the tests, and how you engagement tools such as brainstorming session during discussion exercises, co-creation or validation approaches are some of the examples of the methods used in Living Lab. Outcomes can be classified as tangible or intangible. Usually tangible are in form of product or service prototype, design. Intangibles can be you have generated ideas, new knowledge for community building, or services to foster sustainability. Lastly, as we are talking about circular economy, so we have to incorporate one more element into it, and that is sustainability, and which area of sustainability is being covered, such as food waste reduction, maybe transportation, clothing, and so on, our community, our social development. So based on these characteristics, we have taken the sample of 5 university living labs, such as which are situated in Sweden, Finland, United Kingdom, and Spain. And these living lab, for example, Mobi, were focusing on integrating e-bike in public transportation, which is a little bit complex because, interestingly, these e-bike transportation public integration is not so simple because it also involves urban development, urban planning. So it's this particular experimentation and the living lab project has been carried out in Sweden. Which second one, which I have already been discussing, is Lahti Living Lab, and their famous project is Bukashi, and they talk it about household food waste management, how to reduce the food waste, and how to convert food waste in for the soil development. Yakshore Circular Lab, they focus on community development, and the good thing is they have, I believe they have almost covered many 600 around initiatives about community development. It's like, for example, they are by initiatives like from repair shops, food banks, libraries, stuff, and other big banks, something like that. GE Colab focused on support incubators, co-creation. They have a completely different kind of support system. It's more focusing on SMEs and the incubation centers, urban spaces, and so on. Lastly, circular economy thinking at Action United Kingdom was again about waste management. The good thing is, which is relevant with Carolina's presentation, is about nudging. They have applied nudging, and their living lab is actually the campus itself. That's why they call them campus living labs. Well, there are so many things. What I'm trying to do here is to summarize them, what has been done, and then I give you my critical analysis, what's good about it and what should be done. The first thing among all these stakeholder, I mean, all these learning labs, are that they have used very heterogeneous group of people in all the processes, which include end user, government bodies, businesses, community groups, and local bodies too. Major actions and activities taken by these all living labs are mainly validation, which is on top, then co-creation, experimentation, research, and somehow consultation, which I go back a little bit. You see here, support incubators and the co-creation is GE Co-Living Lab has performed this one, and consultation, knowledge sharing. Methods they have used is again testing, quantitative and qualitative. Moreover, they also focus on industry analysis to support incubators and SMEs. And one of the main tasks of a living lab was to just engage stakeholders to solve a certain problem in a community. And sustainability domain, which has been focused by all these living labs, are food waste, transportation, social development, and circular economy. For now, I just need you to go to pools. I'm going to share with you the screen. Maybe maybe Lucia can help us with this.
Yes, definitely. So again, those options for the polls will appear on your screen. Just choose your answers, your choices. Again, multiple choices, so you can choose more than just one. And then please submit your answer by the bottom of your screen. And then we will share the results and talk about these. So please, participants, if you are able, try to choose some choices which you can see on your screen. Again, you can use multiple of these, and then please submit your answer by the bottom of your screen. A little bit more time for thinking and choosing the answers. Okay, I think that since it was not so many choices, I think that we can close the poll and share our results and talk about these. So Vakas, how can you interpret what you can see on the screen, those results? Is it surprising for you or not really?
Thank you. And thank you for participation in pools. Yes, it seems not surprising, which I have already highlighted that these two topics are actually makes it different from traditional living lab, which answers are real world scenario and involvement of diverse stakeholders. They combinedly makes living lab different from the traditional labs. Focus on producing tangible output is and the strict reliance on scientific methods it involves in both cases, conventional and non-conventional. Thank you for participation. Let's move further. So my analysis about these living labs are like, number one thing, there's a diverse group inclusion. Number second, the problem which is with the living lab overall is structure of stakeholder inclusion missing, and which has already been highlighted in previous presentation that literature, we cannot find any structure and there's a research gap we need to fill. Mostly activities are performed should be measured. And in the cases of the living lab, they were measured, but not all. And these all activities were unfortunately based on short span of time. And lastly, the tangible results such as service design, prototype, or anything which is not found in all cases. Some of them have produced, but most of the results were based on implementation rather than measuring the behavioral change or maybe some kind of any change in the residents. Well, in 50-50 cases, both were there, but tangible results were still missing. Method applies were the good thing is, which I'm highlighting here, the universities have a leverage of research expertise, and this is what the plus point is about the university living labs compared to other living labs. The sustainability domain has been covered various, but there was integration approach missing among these domains, which means each living lab are focusing on very particularly on one of the element of the sustainability without integrating with other sustainability domains, which in some cases should be done. Next topic is about challenges, which is in general, it's about university living lab and the living lab in general. One of the major challenge with, I can say, with the living labs are integration of diverse viewpoints, method, and approaches. And that is one of the major problem. People come with the different viewpoints, different perspectives. Integrating them in one session or maybe in a couple of sessions is really hard because everyone has different objectives. Second one is collaboration among heterogeneous stakeholder. There is another problem. The stakeholder are completely from different diverse background. One are citizens, other are business people, third are government employees. And their collaboration is a little bit hard, and there is more chances of disagreement. Third one is lack of clear structure, which has already been discussed, that there is no any proper structure of integrating the various stakeholders and carry on the living lab activities. Fourth one is, again, very important one, the business skepticism on end user integration, where the business people are reluctant to involve end users because they think it is inefficient and more time consuming. They more rely on top bottom approach, which is not in the case of living labs. And very important one, I think, which is means of continuous financial support. In the case of the sample I have selected, there was no any continuous financial support. Most of the labs relied on short-term financial funding, and they have some projects to finish, and that's it. Lastly, it's very, very challenging to generalize the campus living lab results over other geographical regions. So campus living results are a little bit different. You need to apply first on the locality and then for another regions, which is the solution. So what is the way forward? One thing, focus on local issue, which should be relevant to participants, and it's help them to engage in the process. To motivate participants, use brainstorming sessions and sharing some ideas and prototype to start with. Third one, consent of participants can be shared with the help of shared vision at the beginning of living lab projects. So it avoids conflict. Then the second last is empowerment and ownership among participants is helping them not only giving and sharing the ideas during the process, but when they are outside the living lab, I mean, they are not in contact, these ideas which have been discussed may have an impact on their own personal lives. So what we need to do is we need to provide unexpected opportunities for unexpected views and discoveries, which is very crucial for our participants. Then finally, what we talk about here, it's about the performance, which is most important, and it's evaluating it is crucial. The methods which has been applied in traditionally are in-depth survey, questionnaires, case study, and observations, which I'm not going to discuss because this is not the topic. My topic is how can we measure the performance, not only about the output, but overall performance of a living lab. So I'm relying this particular topic on structured evaluation on living lab dimensions. So there is a framework which we call it living lab triangle, which is not only about, you can see, innovation output, and there are two other aspects. One is living lab approach, which I call it generic, which applies to every kind of a living lab, where how you provide evaluation to stakeholders about the ideas, implementation in any phase, and the research context. I'm not going to discuss little bit detail, but the good thing about this triangle output framework is that it helps us together and look back again that I have given the introduction about the characteristics of a living lab. These characteristics are very crucial, and they are also again linked here that you need to evaluate each characteristic and see how good the living lab is on each of them. So here we consider these characteristics as a criteria for the performance of a living lab. The second part of living lab environment is about the project oriented, which means any project has been implemented and these aspects are more relevant to it. So at the end of a project, the stakeholder score each of the characters on a 4-point scale. So this is what my presentation is about. My conclusion is the universities are really very important. They bring their expertise, specialized subject knowledge, and research capabilities in Living Lab. They are very crucial element. Second, diverse stakeholder engagement is a key characteristic which makes it different from traditional one. And earlier structuring of Living Lab reduces challenges. So make structuring of Living Lab as much as possible at the beginning of the stage. Integrate multiple domains of sustainability, which I believe it should be done because they are integrated and they have a vice versa effect. Lastly, evaluation of living lab performance also depend on how well these living labs implement generic and project-based characteristics. So it's not only the output, but also the characteristics should be evaluated. And these are the references for the literature I referred. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Wes, for the overview, very complex one, and for all of the inspiring insights. For the presentation, it's like very clear that the transition towards more circular and sustainable urban systems is needed, and it is very good to see those solutions, and I have to really do it in the practice. So thank you a lot for this. And now let us move to another speaker, which is Professor Alessandra Bognoli from the University of Bologna. And she will show us some examples from her project, which they are doing right now in Bologna. So Mrs. Bognoli, the floor is yours. Please share your screen. And maybe one more thing for participants. Again, if you have any questions, please share them via Slido or here in the chat.
Okay, thank you very much, Susanna, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a real pleasure for me to be here today. Yes, our experience. The name is Terracini in Transition at the University of Bologna, and we experienced our living lab basically at the engineering campus since 2014. So we will celebrate more or less 10 years next November. Which is the context? For sure, the sustainability domains. Me, in particular, I'm involved in sustainability issues, circular economy, ecological transition, both in research and teaching activities. And my idea was to put in practice several of these ideas together with students, basically, but also other colleagues of mine, the staff of the university, and so on. So me and my colleagues, we started with the idea that universities are involved for sure in sustainability issues because of research purposes. The education for sustainability in terms of cross-disciplinary courses. There are several curricula, for instance, not only at the engineering school, but also in other faculties. It is important that governance and administration were involved in sustainability issues and in the ecological transition. The community outreach, I think that is really important to have a dialogue with the other institution, in particular with the municipality, for instance. The University of Bologna is a very old university, maybe the oldest in the Western countries, but it is not just a campus inside, but the university is connected, strictly connected with the municipality. All students live inside the city, so it's very important the dialogue together with the Bologna municipalities. And several issues and subjects such as energy and climate change, energy transition, water use, land use, material flows, waste management, as you mentioned in the other presentation, and so on. So it's really important to work all together in the proper direction. And the proper direction, in a certain way, is followed by the so-called transition engineering. That is a new approach for design and management in an environmental, social, and economic sustainability. In that way, yes, as transition engineers, we develop research activities. The idea is to develop research activities oriented to build a sustainable world from environmental, social, and economic point of view in relation with several subjects, such as treatment and valorization of raw materials and natural resources, the water supply, water saving, wastewater treatment, and energy, for sure, energy transition towards renewable energies. But jumping to our living lab, so the sustainable campus and the universities, we started with the idea that education, as Carolina said, at another level, but also for the university, that is definitely true that education plays a crucial role. College and universities are vested by society with the task of discerning truth, imparting values, socializing students to contribute to social progress. And we can say that they are responsible. We, all of us, we are responsible for imparting the moral vision and technical knowledge needed to ensure high quality of life for the future. And the campus itself can become a feedback mechanism for the teaching and research practice. And universities can teach and demonstrate the theory and the practice of sustainability through taking action to understand and reduce unsustainable impact of their activities. When we started thinking about a local living lab, we met the movement of green offices around Europe. The first example was in Maastricht, the first green office, in fact, born in Maastricht in 2010. And then you can see a growing movement, quite exponential movement around the world, around the Europe. Basically, here's some example, and we started with the idea to put in practice our living lab in the framework of green office movement. Our living lab for sustainability, the name in transition because of the place where we are. Yes, we started with a living laboratory of sustainability to promote and to implement practices in terms of, let's say, natural resources saving, energy, water, waste management, waste recycling, waste reduction. As Bacchus said, the idea was basically, in our case, to put in practice some tangible, you define very good definition, tangible and intangible solutions or ideas and so on. So our ideas maybe because of the engineering school and our perspective as engineers, to put in practice tangible outcomes. So concrete actions involving students, researchers, teachers, and also, why not, the governance of the university, administrative staff. And the involvement of the administrative staff is crucial in order to be able to put in practice the idea. Everything concerns operational management of facilities, such as offices, laboratories, and so on. By students' point of view, the participation and training of them on sustainability issues can allow them to have a direct experience of sustainability, of sustainable practice. They can increase their skills and develop a correct approach for a sustainable lifestyle. Starting from participative management among students, professors, and technicians, we developed during the years sustainability project and several applications. Basically, the main topics you can see in slide. The main topics were urban green technologies, mobility issues, water saving, waste management, and together with waste management, talking about organic waste, the community composting, then the green office I mentioned right now, electronic waste management and recycling, and at the end, sustainability communication. We know that dissemination communication is a fundamental issue in all our activities and practices. Just in a few minutes, a couple of examples. I am really proud of our green technologies. Basically, an experimental green roof for collecting and regulating stormwater and quantifying the building energy savings located on our laboratories, and several studies thanks to the experimental urban green roof were made along the years, involving a lot of students, both for research or learning activities, for thesis, final thesis for their master degree. Some PhD students were involved during these years. And yes, the other topics, as I said, related to waste management, water management, circular economy laboratory, basically in relation with electronic equipment waste collection, electronic device at end of life collection and dismantle in order to understand which components, which materials inside, in a framework of circular economy put in practice. Then the community engagement, the community of students and let's say all staff of the university in a dialogue together with the Bologna municipality, and awareness and communication thanks to a blog online and a newspaper written directly from students. Right. That is in a few minutes what we made and what we are doing, and we hope also in the future to be able to enlarge our activities altogether. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your attention. I tried to finish in 10 minutes, so Susanna disappeared, but I'm available for any questions by the audience. Please, if you have any questions, I'm not able to see the chat, maybe, right? No?
There are questions on Slido. I've seen questions for me.
Okay, very good.
So I try to give some possible answers. So the first question is the importance of stakeholder engagement. What are the key factors in maintaining long-term engagement from stakeholders? So thank you for this question. It's very difficult to have the correct answer, but in our experience, the key to maintain stakeholder engagement is a following up of the co-designed proposals, project proposals. So in this way, the stakeholders' involvement can continue in the subsequent stages of an urban living lab that are implementation and data analysis. About the other question from Jan, were the seminars at school living lab part of the school schedule or is it extracurricular? So yeah, seminars in our school living lab were extracurricular and conducted by Enea researchers, but they were co-designed with teachers. About the other question, how do you ensure that the lessons learned from these pilot projects are integrated into broader city planning or policy making? Maybe it will be possible to have the answer to this question at the end of the NiCE project. Now I don't have the answer. And there is another, another question for me. How effective were games in changing behaviors? So, in our experience, the games are very effective because in our school living lab, not only the students of the school were involved, but the game triggered such as a process that students from other schools and even primary schools participated in the game. The methodology is absolutely replicable in other territorial contests and in other schools. So I think that's all from my side.
Thank you, Carolina. Sorry for some technical issues from my side, but I am back. So thank you for answering the questions from Slido. I think that we can move to another questions. I can see the other one, which I think could be suitable for you, Vaka. So if you can answer anonymous question, but how do you ensure that the lessons learned from those pilot projects in urban living labs are integrated into broader city planning and policy making? Is it even possible, or what is your opinion about it?
That's a very nice question. Let me highlight one important thing that I came across during my research. That what we are doing right now, currently, the living labs are in case of businesses, we are focusing on only one niche of sustainability domain. But the thing is, the reality is there are so many domains interconnected. When your objective of a living lab project is more like broader interconnected sustainability domains, then you can have a more inclusion of stakeholders. Okay, so this is the one way. The second way is the recruitment of the stakeholder, which makes it more inclusive. One of them is we count it like community of interests. One other is community of activities. Okay, sometimes the people are involved, which do the things, and we are working to foster them. And there are other people who have interest. They have interest in the activities, or maybe in somehow indirect way. Our The selection of or the recruitment of the stakeholder should also not only include the people who are directly involved, but we also need to include the people who have other concerns. Maybe indirectly they are connected. So yeah. So the third one, the inclusion, which is the last one. By the way, I'm not taking more time. The third way to create a more inclusion is to narrow down your local issue. When you have a more local issue and people can relate with it, if you go for maybe broader one, it's very hard. Maybe there's not equal distribution of benefit, but if you look at the local issue, narrow down one, then it is more easily for the living labs to create inclusion of the stakeholder. I hope I answer your question.
Thank you for this answer. I think it was very complex and sounds very easy to understand. It was a little bit in the correlation with another question, which I can see in here in the slide for you, Vakas, as well. When we are concerned that circular economy initiatives might not equally benefit all residents, how do we ensure that those projects are inclusive for everyone? Is it possible to include all the groups of inhabitants to those living labs? You are muted, so please unmute and then.
Sorry, you're talking about the question about how we can integrate it with broader city planning and policy.
Yeah, it's another question in Slido, which I can see. It's aimed to you because it's saying that it is question for you, Vakas, and it is just the question if those living labs can include also all types of the groups of the people in the cities. And in the areas, if it is possible to be sure that those projects are inclusive enough also for all the groups of the people.
Actually, there are some of the, for example, e-micro mobility project. I have studied that, and they have not only include the citizens and the businesses and the service providers. They also include city planners. They also include local governments, municipalities, municipal government representatives. So it was so inclusive that you cannot put micro mobility in public transport when you cannot connect, you cannot integrate the city planning. So yes, there are some examples where this living lab has integrated as many, community of interest is possible. Without them, this cannot be achieved. And this e-mobility program has been implemented more than 3 metro cities, and they have successfully, in some cases, they successfully integrated with the help of inclusion of the stakeholders. So I believe, yes, there are possibilities, and I believe without their inclusion, we cannot achieve the sustainability or circular economic initiatives.
Definitely, it's all connected. Thank you for this answer. We will move to at least one more question from Slido, if you are okay, all of you, with a little bit prolongating the webinar. But we have one more question from Mr. Sabo for Alessandra Bognoli. So how do you engage students for the LL? I'm not sure what is the short living lab, I think.
Thank you, Marian, for your question. Thank you, Susanna. Yes, basically, we are talking about environmental engineer students at our school, and they are students of mine that in their course they participate to my lessons, and I am able to engage them, suggesting them to develop some project inside all the activities of my course that are useful also for the final examination and for the final mark. And I have to say that they are really happy to be engaged and to develop several projects and to put in practice several ideas they have. So it's it is quite easy to engage them, right? Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for the answer. And I think that our time is done for now. Thank all of you for your questions and also for the answers. Thanks go also to all of you speakers. It was amazing to hear all of those information and very practical point of views, have to really include those information into our lives, because it's, as we heard, very inclusive for all the people, not only in the cities, but also at the universities. So I think that it was very inspiring. Let me remind you that the recording of this session will be also shared online on YouTube. So maybe 1 week after, you will be able to see it on the YouTube channel. So definitely, if you miss some information, or if you want to recap some of those information, you can come back and watch the record. And if you have some more questions, do not hesitate to contact me or our speakers directly. You write them an email, or let's call to each other and let's talk about those topics, because it's very important. And I would also like to mention that we will definitely see you once again on another seminar and webinar, hopefully in the December. So see all of you again, and have a nice day. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you again.
We don't need a picture, maybe, I don't know.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much.
Goodbye.
See you soon.
Thank you to all. Bye.
Thank you. I think that we can stop recording somehow.